Mic check, 1, 2. 1, 2, mic check. Mic check, 1, 2.
Loud
Thanks,
and
sir.
clear, the mic check.
You're loud and clear.
Thanks, sir. 6 minutes to showtime. One minute.
Good afternoon. Welcome everybody to the City of Sugar Land tow truck application process. Next slide. Good afternoon everybody. Welcome to the City of Sugar Land tow truck application process for the 2020-2022 agreement. Next slide. The City of Sugar Land Record Service Agreement Process. Again, welcome. The Record Service Agreement revolves around the City of Sugar Land City Council Resolution number 16-11. Nothing has changed since the last process, and what we'll require in this meeting is to go over the application, important dates, requirements, rejection criteria with photos, and then at the end we will have a short question and answer session. Next slide. Information for this process. This will require a complete application packet, which will determination of qualifications, automatic disqualifications, and the resolution. Next slide. City of Sugar Land non-consent tow truck rotation list application packet. You must have a complete application packet. Incomplete application packets or application packets containing false statements will result in disqualification. Late application packets will result in disqualification. Applications can be picked up at the City Secretary's office in person or email at citysec@sugarlandtext.gov to have one electronically sent to you. The City Secretary's office is located at 2700 Town Square, Sugar Land. Next slide. What will be required from each company? If you'll see in the slide, your company will have to be registered with the Secretary of State. If using a DBA or assumed name, it must be registered with the Secretary of State, and it must be able to appear in the Secretary of State direct search. You cannot be one name with the Secretary of State and a different name anywhere else in the process. In other words, you must use the same assumed name or DPA for all remaining entries. You cannot share a vehicle storage facility. Each company must have its own. Again, if you look in the slide, the Secretary of State says ABC Towing. The truck will need to be registered to ABC Towing. Trucks will need to be insured to ABC Towing. And the vehicle storage lot will have to be owned or rented by ABC Towing. Or ABC Towing can have a DBA of 123 Towing, and again, trucks registered to 123 Towing, trucks insured to 123 Towing, and the vehicle storage lot must be owned or rented by 123 Towing. What is not okay is ABC Towing being registered to the Secretary of State. However, trucks are registered to ABCD Towing, trucks are insured to ABCD Towing, or your vehicle storage facility is owned or rented by ABCD Towing. Next slide. Previous disqualifiers. A company not registered with or registered properly with the Texas Secretary of State. Next slide. A vehicle storage facility not within 7 miles of the Sugar Land city limit. Next slide. This is a map of a 7-mile radius outside the City of Sugar Land city limits. Next slide. Additional previous disqualifiers. A perimeter fence and gate not at least 6 foot in height. Perimeter fence consisting of material other than metal, wood, chain link, or masonry, or the fence is in need of repair. Next slide. This is a picture of unacceptable fencing. You can see this is an unsecure fence and is not 6 foot in height. This is unacceptable. Will be disqualified upon background check. Fence must be 6 foot high and consist of metal, wood, chain link, masonry, and be secure for the vehicles that will be parked inside. Next slide. Again, unacceptable fencing. Yes, the fence is 6 foot tall in metal, but it is not secure. Fencing must be in good condition. The purpose of the fence is to secure the vehicles inside the vehicle storage facility. Next slide. Previous disqualifiers. Main sign does not contain the vehicle storage facility number. Please follow TDLR rules regarding signage. And we'll talk more about that in just a minute. Next slide. Previous disqualifiers. Vehicle storage facility not capable of holding 25 vehicles. The vehicle storage facility does not have a hardtop surface resistant to normal elements. Next slide. Unacceptable vehicle storage facility surface. Grassy and muddy, not all-weather hardtop surface resistant to normal elements as stated in Resolution 3 1A.4G. Next slide. Unacceptable vehicle storage facility surface. Grassy surface and not enough room for 25 vehicles. Next slide. Acceptable hard surface. Hard lot surface. TDLR, all-weather surface that permits vehicle mobility and no overgrown vegetation. Must have minimum lot capacity of 25 vehicles. Next slide. This is a photo of acceptable fencing, 6 inches tall, made of metal. Next slide. An acceptable main sign. Follow TDLR rules. Name of business as it appears with Secretary of State, the street address, telephone number for release of vehicles, hours posted for release of vehicles with 1 hour notice, license number preceded by vehicle storage facility license number, 2-inch letters minimum, contrasting and visible at 10 feet. Next slide. Important timeline. May the 20th, 2020. Today we are having our pre-application meeting. June 10th, 2020. Applications are due to City Secretary's office by 5 p.m. June 11th, 2020. Sugarland background investigations will begin. July 16th, 2020. We'll draw 5 company names. And on July 25th, 2020, a new record agreement starts. It will be good for 2 years. Next slide. That is our pre-application portion for the tow process. We'll now open it up to questions and answers. If you wish to ask a question, use the raise hand feature in Zoom. Click on participants on your screen, and then click on raise hand on the lower section of the participants pane. Next question. Next slide. Each participant who has raised their hand will be called on and unmuted to ask their question. After your question has been asked, the participant will be muted again while the answer is given. After all questions are asked, we will read any pre-submitted questions, and finally, any public comments submitted will be read.
Okay. Got a couple of questions for you, Captain. Mr. Long, you unmuted?
Yes, sir. I have a question regarding the Secretary of State verification. When you have a DBA, that's not registered through the Secretary of State. So you're saying you would have to go on there and they have to see that you're registered as a DBA through the Secretary of State, but that's not where it would show registered. That shows registered through the county.
So the question was, the DBA is not registered with the Secretary of State, but through the county. So do you want the DBA also registered with the Secretary of State? Is that correct, Mr. Long? Is that your question?
Well, my question is, the Secretary of State is only for LLC or corporations, when you get your company incorporated. So if you have a DBA, you wouldn't be registered with the Secretary of State.
Okay, so it's more of a statement.
The company must be registered with the Secretary of State. Must be.
They can't be a DBA.
So,
If you're using a DBA or assumed name, it must be registered with the Secretary of State and appear in a Secretary of State direct search. Does that answer your question?
no, it really doesn't. I guess my question would be, is that in order to be registered with the Secretary of State, you have to incorporate your company. So my question is, are you going to not allow DBAs to be in? Because there's no way to register with the Secretary of State unless you're incorporated.
Okay. So we're going to take your question down and we'll have someone look into that. The answer that we have today is if using a DBA or assumed name, it must be registered with the Secretary of State. So you still have the email address that you responded to in the beginning to get on this meeting. Please send your question to that address, and we will respond with an answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Okay, we have Brian. Brian with Performance Towing.
Okay. I have a question with I guess the capacity of the storage lot. What is it? Which is 25 vehicles. How do y'all, I guess, decide that? Because I had an officer come out 2 years ago and he was measuring with his feet, claimed that couldn't fit 25 vehicles when, I have pictures that I can. There's other storage lots that are smaller than mine that can't fit 25. So just trying to see how did y'all decide that or figure that out?
Okay, to clarify, so the question is how is the measurement done in order to calculate how many vehicles can be stored in your storage facility?
How does the officer determine it?
Okay, how does the officer determine that, Captain?
So when we do an inspection of the lot, one of the things we look for is the ability to hold 25 vehicles. And what we'll do is we have a measurement. I did not bring those with me. However, we do have a measurement that we use that will decide how we determine 25 vehicles are in a lot. So I will provide everyone with what that measurement is.
All right.
Thank you, Brian. Last call for questions. Okay, Captain, we have no more questions, and there are no public comments signed up at this time. One late question. Okay, Tate and Blue, you ready?
All right, so, so I know the last 2 years ago when we were doing this process, there was a debate whether or not there was going to be a two truck requirement, and that didn't go through. Is this time being, are we doing a truck requirement now, or a truck minimum, I mean?
So the question is, during the last meeting, there was talk of a truck minimum, tow truck minimum, 2 truck requirement. Is that applicable to this process as well? Is that correct? Sum up of your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're asking if there's a 2 truck minimum requirement?
Yes, sir, or if there's a truck minimum at all.
Okay. At this time, not that I'm aware of. However, I'll find that information out and I'll get back to you on that.
All right, perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blue.
Who was that?
Tate and Blue.
Sugar Surgeon.
Okay. Seeing no more questions, and we have no one signed up for public comments, Captain.
Thank everybody for attending the pre-application meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.